Hello, everyone. Today's topic is very important because I know that there are many, many students whose work permit is expiring, or there are professionals whose work permit is expiring. So, what options are available to you, and how you can, stay in Canada for longer if you want to, and if it makes sense for you. So, before that, let me introduce myself. My name is Sandhu, and I'm a regulated Canadian immigration consultant based out of Ontario, Canada. And here is the disclaimer. So, this video is only for informational purposes and should not be construed as legal or professional advice. If you want one, you may book an appointment with a licensed practitioner. So, without any further ado, let's look into various options which are available to you or could be available to you, right? Let's look at the bridging open work permit. So, this is primarily for those who have submitted their permanent residence application. So, this could be, let's say, through express entry, and there are some requirements as well. One of them is that you must be the principal applicant, and you now need to have an acknowledgement of receipt if you applied through the express entry, and you must have a valid work permit at the time of you applying, or you may have or you may be on a maintained status as a worker, or even if you have lost your status as a worker, you should be in a position to restore that status. So there are a few other conditions as well, but in general, this is the requirement. And some people may also apply if they have, like, for example, already got nominated by the province, right? And it could be through the base nomination or the enhanced nomination, which means like either you could have been got 600 points through the express entry stream. Let's say you got your nomination through, let's say, Ontario express entry stream, such as human capital priority stream or any of those streams. Or it could be through non-express entries, that is not through express entry, right? Let's say you were nominated under master's graduate stream, for that matter, right? So one of the very important thing you need to understand is that there should be no employment restriction as a condition of nomination, because that's very important in this case as well, right? And you must live in Canada at the time you apply for that, right? And even if you are basically applied for PR under the non-express entry stream, then also there has to be no employment restriction as a condition of your employment, and you must live in Canada at the time of applying, and you have to provide many supporting documents, including maybe a copy of your nomination letter or basically acknowledgement of receipt, which you would receive when you have submitted your provincial nominee permanent residence application, right? So this is something which is important. Now let's move to the next one, which is a Francophone mobility program. So this is a really good program as well. I think a lot of us, I see that students or professionals are now trying to learn French as such. So the requirements are pretty kind of low. So first of all, this is an employer-specific work permit, right? So this is one of those. I think I should have put it under the employer-specific work permit, which is LMI exempt. But nonetheless, let's talk about it. So the good part is that you need obviously an offer of employment from an employer, and it could be in any tier job, right? It could be tier 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, except that the offer of employment cannot be for a job in a primary agriculture occupation under tier 4 or tier 5. So except for the agriculture occupation in tier 4 and tier 5, any other occupation all other occupations are kind of eligible, right? And this is primarily for those who want to live and work in outside Quebec, right, in Canada. The most interesting part in this is that the requirement for French are pretty low, right? And not only they're much lower. For example, you only need to prove your speaking and listening skills in French, right, at a kind of intermediary level. So that would be, let's say, equivalent of CLB5, right, in the French test. Maybe let's say TEF Canada or TCF Canada. So that should be, I think, good enough for this specific kind of work permit. Then there are many open work permits available as well. For example, if you are a family member of a principal foreign national who is working in a high skilled, low skilled occupations. For example, let's say hypothetically, your spouse is applying for his or her, let's say, postgraduate work permit, right? And they have a job offer, right, in tier 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. And this may change eventually, but you can also in that case apply for your open work permit along with that particular application as well. So that option is available. So there are many criterias and requirements. So, but the most important one is that the principal foreign national, let's say if you are applying on the basis of your spouse, right? So he or she must be either employed or will be employed in a high skilled occupation or a low skilled occupation. But just remember, so immigration minister has kind of basically going to made an announcement that they're going to make some changes to that. Most likely, I think the low skilled occupations may not be eligible eventually, right? And maybe or there might be very few exceptions. For example, let's say for a certain healthcare or construction sector. So we are awaiting those details, but that might happen, right? Another is a family member of foreign national who submitted PR application, right? So, for example, uh, let's say you are a family member of somebody who has submitted their PR application, so you might apply as an accompanying family member, right? So that is always an option which is available to you. And I think the NOC code, sorry, the exemption code would be they call it C49. So this is for family members of work permit holders who are basically applied under the economic class PR applicant, or if they're chosen by a province, right? So this is one of the requirements for that specific thing. Then also spouse of study permit holders. There are some changes which has happened right this year. So this is only kind of restricted if, for example, let's say your spouse or common law partner is studying at a master's level or a doctoral level or certain kind of professional programs, right? So that is some of the requirements, right? And there are many details. And these professional programs could be like, for example, like bachelor's of nursing and bachelor of education, engineering, or maybe bachelor of law, those kind of things, right? And there are many nuances in this specific thing that who can or cannot be eligible. Even I think that for masters as well, the program has to be more than I think 16 months longer, right? So those are some of the kind of requirements which are there. Then there are also family members of foreign nationals if are nominated by province and issued a work permit support letter. So this would be again, they would apply similar to what would be a family member of foreign national working in high or low skilled occupations under, like, for example, C41, right? So that would be something like that. And then there are certain public policies as well. For example, people who have applied for Hong Kong permanent residence applicants and their family members would be also eligible for open work permit. Or, for example, let's say if your husband is already a permanent resident or a Canadian citizen and they're sponsoring you, right, as their spouse, right? So under the spouse and common law class or the family class applicant, and you're already in Canada, so there might be also an option for you to apply for open work permit as well. And then there are many employer-specific work permits as well, which are basically LMI exempt, right? So it could be intercompany transfer, or, for example, provincial nominee. Let's say, hypothetically, you applied for ONP International Student Stream, for example, right? Employer job of International Student Stream. You have already submitted the application and you got your nomination. With the nomination, if you got the work permit support letter, you may be able to extend your work permit as well, or apply for the work permit as well, right? So you would, in that case, need many documents, and some of those important ones would be, I would say, this work permit support letter, plus your employer paying the employer compliance fees, and you need some kind of a proof for that. And you also need kind of an A number, which is generated when your employer generate the employer job offer through the employer portal. Those are some of the kind of requirements, bare minimum required for you to basically apply for your employer specific, basically closed work permit. And then, which is somebody which is, I think most of you would be already aware of, which is the employer specific work permit based on an LMIA. For example, if you have a positive LMIA, a job offer based on a positive LMIA, you should be eligible to apply for a work permit, right? And able to extend that, right? So now there are also some changes which are coming up, but I believe the changes are related to LMIA, related to the points. You may not get the points, but I don't think so there is any change which is happening related to whether you will or will not be able to apply for work permit based on LMIA. So those things may not be changing. Apart from that, for example, like there are a lot of people who might have, let's say, already done like 1 or 2 years of experience in Canada. Their postgraduate work permit is expiring. Now, let's say they've done bachelor's, for example, already. Now, let's say if they do master's program, right, they can apply for a study permit as well. Not only for masters, for any specific program, right? For example, if they say, if I want to stay a little bit more and I want to do master's program and I'm also married, my wife will be able to extend her open work permit. And, there are all very strategic ways in which you can enhance your chances of permanent residence and also your chances of staying in Canada legally. So study permit could be one such option, right? And there are some places where if you apply for study permit and if you study as well, so you open up many other PR pathways as well, right? And the writing on the wall is very, very clear. So those who have work experience in Canada, right, they will obviously have a higher chance. Because even if you look at the immigration kind of level quota, so they are targeting for in Canada criteria they have, which is basically Canadian experience class, right? So that is something you can think strategically. Plus, there are, for example, Ontario has Ontario Masters program as well, whereby if you do, graduate from a master's from eligible institution, you might be able to apply under the master's graduate stream as well, right? So those options are always available, right? And then if you want to extend your stay and you're not able to find any employer, you are not able to find any of those options right for you, you might even consider applying for visitor record, which is basically you will get the visitor status, right? Obviously, it only makes sense in a very narrow sense of the way. For example, maybe it makes sense, for example, you want to stay a little bit longer so that you are able to explore the option for another LMIA, or you have applied for some of the provincial programs, let's say Atlantic Immigration Program or some other program, and you want to have the opportunity to basically be in Canada and make up the efforts to find a job and then eventually apply for a work permit as such, right? So there might be a case for a visitor record as well, but not always. So I hope you kind of like this video. If you did, please like and subscribe to the channel. And so I've created a lot of videos as well. So I hope you have learned something from this video as well. So thank you so much for watching.